Welcome, everyone. Let's land in with spirit with today's lesson. 1 minute. Beyond this world, there is a world that I want. So, welcome everyone and welcome Jon Mundy.
Sure.
I am so happy that you are here.
Thank you. Nice being with you.
And you have written many books. You have lived A Course in Miracles since 1975. You're director of the Miracle Magazine. You have been teaching for decades. Yeah.
Yeah, all these things are true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us how did the
Uh,
course come into your life?
Well, it started in 1973, actually. I met Helen and Bill together at a conference where Hugh Lynn Casey, Edgar Casey's son, was the keynote speaker. And my first book had just come out. It was called Learning to Die. It had been published by the same organization that was sponsoring the event. And I did a workshop, and Helen and Bill came to my workshop. Now I'm like 29 years old and think I know something, a PhD student. And if I had known who was sitting there listening to me, thank God I didn't. you know. Um, so I was really into the Carlos Castaneda material at that time, and John Lilly, if you know who he was an author that investigated communication among animals, unlike humans, dolphins and stuff like that. Anyhow, we were introduced at the end of that talk, and I can't remember if they said A Course in Miracles or not, but I remember when I was introduced to Helen, let's say they said had written like an inspirational book, right? Well, Helen is this little woman, frizzy hair and big glasses. And I actually remember looking at Helen and thinking, isn't that sweet? The little old lady wrote an inspirational book. It's probably got some nice prayers in it. It does. It has some very nice prayers.
Sure. Yeah.
Today's lesson would be one of them. So that was just our first meeting, and I seemed like it was important we were supposed to meet. But that was it. I think they had a meeting with Hugh and Casey, but I wasn't in part of that, of course. And then the next year, 74, I wrote a letter which got published in the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology, expressing interest in being in contact with people who are working in the fields of psychotherapy and spirituality, because I was doing my doctoral dissertation on that at the time. And Bill saw my letter, told Helen he thought it was a call for her to complete the writing of the psychotherapy pamphlet. So Helen had started the psychotherapy pamphlet, but she never finished it. So Bill and Ken were both at work, finish that. And so then Bill said, look, Helen, this guy wants this information. Why don't you finish it so you can give it to him? Right. So Helen called me in April of 75 and said, I have something for you. I did not know what she was talking about, but I agreed to go meet the two of them. Well, actually, the four of them. There was Ken, Helen, Bill, and then this priest named Father Benedict Rochelle. They were all there in Ken's apartment in New York City. Now, Ken and Helen both lived on East 17th Street in New York City, and I was living in Chelsea, which was the neighboring neighborhood. And so that was between 19th and 20th on the west side. So it was really just 25-minute walk across town to get to Helen's, right? To get to Ken's. Well, they lived across the street from me. So Ken deliberately got an apartment across the street from Helen just so that they make it easy for them to work together. So Ken and Helen sat on Ken's daybed, and Bill and the priest were there, and she just explained to me what this was and how it came into existence, and uh, gave me a copy of the manuscript of the psychotherapy pamphlet. And I remember walking home that night with this under my arm, kind of thinking, the most important thing that ever happened to you just happened, but I didn't know what it was. And it took a while. It took a while for me to begin to get into the course. So I was started working with a manuscript copy. It was called the Criswell edition. There were several copies made, Xerox copies. And and it just grew from the kid and I became friends quickly there. In fact, is about 2 weeks later, he came to see me in my apartment, at an office apartment inside a general theological seminary. And he really enjoyed coming. It looks like Oxford University, right in a block in New York City. And then we started. After that, it was just like I started sponsoring lectures by Ken because I was doing that sort of thing with other speakers at the time. And it just kept growing. And then once the course came out, it was not physically published until June 26, 1976. And there was a big party at Judy Whitson's apartment on the Upper West Side in New York City. And then I just started setting up lecture opportunities for Ken. I'm around in different for Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship. And then in my own home, I moved to Westchester and had him come there and et cetera, et cetera. So it just kept, and then Helen, interesting enough, became, let's say, like my psychotherapist. I won't go into, I never studied the course with Helen, not formally, but I won't go into telling this story. Something happened the same week that she told me about the course. And she said, if you need any, want to keep talking. Well, that same week I had like a little tragedy, romantic thing happened that didn't work. And uh, so I called Helen and said, you said I could call you. And she says, yeah, well, come on over. And I went over I never went to her house. I always went to Ken's because her house was a bit, I guess I know I was never there. So I understand it was a bit disheveled because her husband, Louis, was a pack rat. And his Bible was the New York Times, and apparently there was stacks of New York Times around, stuff like that. And she then became, I'll very briefly, I'll tell you what happened with that particular first time we met. So I had a date with this woman. I had two. I decided I didn't want to pursue it. She got very angry, very, very angry because I was not, I didn't want to go any further with this, right? And she started acting out. And she would call me in the middle of the night just to let the phone ring and things like that. And then she really acted out. She came to my apartment and the guy at the doors told her I wasn't in. She threw a cup of coffee in his face. And then later she was waiting outside my door one day and she attacked a woman that was with at the time. And that was really bad. I mean, literally physically attacked her. Nothing happened because she ran and got into a car and so everything was okay, no damage, but psychologically, you know. And so I went to see Helen, and Helen said, she said, the next time you call, answer the phone talk to her. She needs your help.
Yeah.
And that night, she called. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I got up and I answered the phone. And we sat and talked until the light was coming in the window. So 2 hours, 3 hours.
Mm.
And the relationship was healed. She is still a friend to this day. In fact, it's her birthday's next week. I'll be contacting him to say happy birthday.
So it was a call for love.
It was a call for love,
Mm.
and the answer was forgiveness,
Yeah.
and so we forgave each other, and that's it. But, the forgiveness works. You know, it really works. How simple. What a proof that was for that.
Yeah. So you kind of studied for Helen because she gave you the assignment to actually talk to the woman and
Yeah, yeah. She
yeah,
said, "This you must talk to her.
yeah,
Don't ignore this."
yeah.
Yeah. And that continued like that with other smaller things that, yeah.
So when did you actually start to read the textbook and do the lessons?
Well, it wasn't until 75 that I really started getting into it with this edition, this Xerox edition that we had of the course. But
Mm.
even then, it was like I was slow. I mean, I was like not getting it in the beginning. And I didn't really begin to get it until July of 76. And I had a near-death experience in July of 76. I don't want to go in necessarily into explaining all of what happened around that either, but suffice it that I did. And I saw what the course was talking about because I had this experience of no world. I wasn't here anymore. I wasn't in this world anymore. It was gone, right? No time, not a body. There was no BO. There was a mind there, obviously. Otherwise, but it's really interesting to talk about that because even if when I listen to other near-death experiences, I think people are talking about things like they're seeing something and they're hearing something, and yet you don't have a body. And that's really kind of an interesting. So what is it doing the seeing and the hearing? You see what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like being an observer in a theater or something. I don't know how else to explain that. Uh, but that was really, it was a very, very, very profound experience. I mean, I was convinced I had died. I did not know you could come back. And I was very, very surprised when I did. But that just really threw me much, much more deeper into it. But also, I was working as a minister. I was a minister and a college professor both at the same time.
Mm.
And I gave some good funeral sermons after that, they said. Um, So from then on, it was like a regular thing, and I started pretty soon thereafter having classes and stuff. And most of it was working with Ken. Ken was the one I studied with,
Mm.
and I did a lot of sponsoring of Ken. I bought a home in Westchester. I would have him come there, usually on Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekends when there'd be a lot of cars coming. I go, it'd be okay. And also for Spiritual Frontiers in New York City, and also at the church. He came and gave a talk at my church. He blew them away, I'm sure. I was like, I had him come speak on Good Friday, 1979. And it was very appropriate. It was beautiful. People just loved him. They thought he was wonderful. But I could also tell they weren't really hearing the deeper message that he was giving. But that didn't matter. As long as the message was there. And so that's it. From then on, it was more and more teaching. And then in 85, I finally started Miracles Magazine, which we still have publishing to this day, and which any of you can have. I'll give you all a free digital version. It's expensive to send it to Sweden, the hardback. And just the hardback is much more expensive well, you got to print it and all the pay for it and all that. Yeah. So, and we've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. So I've heard you talk about studying the course in the beginning and then you go deeper. The mind training takes you deeper, like you're a mature student.
Always.
Always, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the earlier studying of the course and when you become this more mature student? What is it? What does it entail?
Well, when you begin to see that what the Course says is true. I mean, for example, if I were to tell you that there's no world, oh, come on, look around at the world. I mean, the politics, all this stuff that's going on, we live here in this, but after a while you get, no. What's the lesson for today? The lesson for today is the world I see holds nothing that I want, right? The world I see, because we're seeing the outside world. We're seeing the world that's on the news at night. That's the world that we're seeing. Well, that world where there's wars in this world. This is not a pleasant place. This isn't heaven. In fact, you're already in heaven. I mean, you're already there now. It's the other way around. We got to flip. So this is the dream. That's the reality. But that doesn't make good sense on an ordinary basis. On an ordinary basis, this is a reality. Heaven's a dream. No, heaven's not a dream. Heaven is where you really are. That's your home. You're already home, but you're having like this dream. And sometimes it's a nightmare.
Mhm.
For a lot of people, this world is a nightmare. If you were in Gaza right now, you'd be in hell. You'd be in a nightmare. And I'm wondering how the hell you got there and what you can get out of there. And even looking at death is many a soldier on a battlefield has prayed for death. You can believe it. Get me out of here. And death was the answer. Take me home. And if you've watched near-death experiences on YouTube or something, I used to do a lot of funerals. And very often, one of the common things people will start saying, I want to go home. I want to go home. Because they're recognizing that this isn't home. This is actually a prison. Now, that may seem like a strange thing, but actually, I checked out research 58 times in the FIP edition, it says that this is a prison. It either says this is a prison. I think 27 times it says you're a prisoner in the world, and the other times it says it's either saying you're a prisoner or you're in prison, one of the two, right? First of all, this is you're locked in this thing. I mean, you can't get out of this thing. The only way out of this thing is either you have some sort of transcendental experience or out of body experience, or you actually have to let go of the thing completely. Then you're out. And when you're old and tired and it's not working well anymore, then of course you want out. Of course you want to go home. That's just the most natural thing in the world. So, but that's what I mean. That it's just like there's no world, there's no time. What do you mean there's no time? What there was a yesterday, there's a tomorrow, there will be, right? But no, it's really all just right here in this centered place, which is where heaven is. Heaven is here. I'm going to this conference next week in Germany, and the topic is knocking on heaven's door. So that's what I'll be talking about. Because we are consistently knocking on heaven's door. And sometimes it's almost like, let me. I had enough of this world, and that doesn't mean to say that there aren't beautiful things here. And for example, we do have love here, and we have flowers here, and we have our pets here, and we have other people here, and all that. Because love is here. Love is here too. But it's a mixture of all those things. And sometimes it's very nice, and sometimes it's dragging us down. And but really, what it is, when I say it's a prison, um, and the course also calls the world a classroom,
Mm.
and A Course of Love that uses the phrase of school a lot. In fact, I don't know a single esoteric mystical tradition that doesn't say this is a school or a reformatory, a mental hospital, you know. So we're trying to figure out how to graduate, and really complete this process.
Yeah.
Graduate for you.
Yeah. And you have lived the course, one of your books, maybe the most famous one. It
Uh,
is named Living the
look, is living on Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
That's the one that's in 8 languages now.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what has it meant to you? You have been living the course for many decades. Tell us about living the course. What does it mean?
Well, I think probably it's like everybody else, there's still the struggles, there's still issues. There's still things that come up, certainly around other people, and relationships. That's that's our main classroom is in relationships. And then with ourselves as well, Helen at one point, this isn't in the course. Helen at one point said to Jesus, um, this isn't working for me. Your book is not working for me. And Jesus said to Helen, well, why don't you do what I'm asking you to do so you can hear my voice even better? Well, she already heard the voice really well. The problem is application. You see, the problem is doing it. There's a passage in Romans, I think, is where St. Paul talks about the things I would do, I don't do. I mean, why can't I do what I'm being called to do? Why this recalcitrance? Why does the body make so many demands on me? Why is it that I overeat? Why do I overeat? I know this isn't good for me, and I could be a worse kind of addiction that I could be caught in, something that's really uh, alcohol or something like that that's really deteriorating my body, and I can't seem to stop that. So it's that ongoing thing to consistently be listening. The voice is always there, but B actually do what I'm being asked to do. And then, of course, the more we can do that, the happier we are, the more we feel good about ourselves. Oh, I did my lesson today. Oh, how's that for a challenge? Just to remember to, and not only do the lesson, but do the lesson that, what, 10 minutes twice a day? No. All that sort of stuff. So there's always that application. And we also never know what's going to come our way in terms of, well, if you have children, for example, they're going to bring you stuff and you're going to want to help your children, but can you always do that wisely? And so, will they pay attention? Will they follow the guidance? Uh, all these questions that we all have to get through this world.
Do you hear the voice all the time?
Well, I think we all do,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's really a question again of paying attention.
Mm,
And do I do what I'm being asked to do? That's the question.
mm.
And because it is always there. It doesn't shut off. I mean, you won't get a busy signal if you call, you know. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and do you do what the voice tells you to do?
Well, I think that the answer to that is that yes, hopefully,
Yeah.
and hopefully with increasing consistency. I think that's really kind of a definition of happiness. And my happiness is that I do this with greater consistency, you know. And unfortunately, Helen struggled with it a lot, and
Mm,
she really did.
mm,
Bill, I am convinced, was the first person to really get the course, to really have it completely transform his life for the better, and to
How
wake.
how did you know that? How did you see that he really got the course?
Do you know how he died? You know the story of his death?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good example of it right there, that he really had it. Well, first of all, he wasn't interested in being known. He wasn't interested in being a speaker for the course, for being popular, for being out there. Uh, his focus was really, as he said the day before he died, uh, healing all of his relationships.
Mm.
The day he died, he said, all my relationships feel so completely healed and whole. Wow. All my relationships feel so completely, well, if you can say that, what an interesting thing to say the day before you die. He was ready to go home.
Mm.
He graduated. He did the work. There was no unforgiveness anymore, right? So, and of course, the relationship is this one. I mean, it's forgiving ourselves. I mean, that's the big one. It's not about somebody else. I mean, of course, it may look like it's about somebody else, and that might be the external manifestation of it. But then it's a lot about learning how, like, let's say, patience, for example. Sometimes if you've got a difficult person that you're dealing with, it's not about their changing, it's about you developing enough patience that you can be with them, handle it, and everything will be okay. But hey, you're the one that's got to be patient. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about forgiveness, uh, how to practice forgiveness. Are you always aware, or do you get angry, irritated, or are you?
Frustrated was probably a word we could use.
Yeah.
Um, Probably that. Yeah, no doubt about that. Uh, Not overt anger, um, certainly not of the attacking form. Although the thoughts are there sometime, of course, right?
Mm.
Yeah. I, the course is something that's you really do have to hang with it for a long time. It's got to become consistent. That's consistency is a very important part of the process. And as Ken Wapnick kept saying, take it deeper, take it deeper. Well, there is a deeper. There's going all the way with it, which is what Bill did, and Ken too. Uh, but so that all you do what Jesus did. To I could not say I and the Father are one, but that's a heck of a leap to do what Jesus. I and the Father are one. Whoa, and to know that and to mean that,
Mm.
yeah. I think Ken died partly. He was done.
He was done.
He was done. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He wrote what 34 books in 34 years, and the message was out there. Complete analysis of all the text, everything. It was all. He could have kept going deeper and kept exploring and kept looking at different angles and dimensions of it, but he wrote a complete analysis of everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a funny story about Ken that before he died, he was still able to move around and stuff. He went back to the center one day looking terrible, but I mean, I'm very emaciated and, uh, a woman was shocked when she saw how he looked, and she expressed her upset. And Ken said, "Why are you upset? I'm not here already, and neither are you."
Mm.
Well,
That's
that's really true, and that, yeah, huh?
that's the way to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're all that. The amazing thing is that really none of us are here. That's why I like one of the phrases I'm sure I'm going to use next week at the conference in Germany is heaven is here, there's no place else. Heaven is now, there's no other time. Right? So, boy, if heaven is here and heaven is now, oh, and then I just have to recognize, I have to see that,
Yeah.
I have to be that.
Yeah. Accept and receive it and relax into it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Relax into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have one more question before we ask participants to ask their questions. So you have always had like a regular job and been teaching the course, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Ken, he was just teaching the course.
No.
It's a lot of me included. I that's all I want to do. I just want to read A Course in Miracles. I don't want to do anything else. But then I have to, make money some way.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
if you could speak a little bit to that, to have a regular job and study A Course in Miracles and teach it as you have done.
Well, I was very fortunate in that, first of all, from a very, very early age, I wanted to be a minister. In fact, when I was 9, I told my parents that I was going to be a minister. And by the time, believe it or not, when I was 18 years old, I got a job as a minister of 3 rural Missouri churches. And I did that when I was in college. So beginning at 18, I had a job as a minister and then teaching. But my field was always psychology, religion. The first courses I taught were in world religions, And so I was studying religion, and studying spirit, and I wrote 2 books on mysticism. So it's really mysticism that was the connecting link, and because certainly the course is not the first to talk about the eternal, and there've been a lot. Jesus wasn't the first or the last to see it. He may have been able to hold it with greater consistency than others were, but so that's really how it was. Really that interest in mysticism. So when I say I taught, yeah, the first classes I taught were on comparative religions, and then in 1969, I got really lucky. I got where I was doing doctoral studies at the New School University in New York City, and the New School was very innovative and open. And this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius and Hares on Broadway, and all the songs were the Beatles, and everything was new and changing. And I proposed a course for the university on consciousness expansion and religious experience. Right, that was the title of my course, and they accepted it. And I literally danced around the house. They're going to let me teach this course on the expansion of consciousness in '69, and I did that for 10 years. Not just that, but then I started a series on esoteric and mystical philosophies. And I had 6 different courses on esoteric and sort in historical epics, from the ancients through the medieval to the modern to contemporary times. And that was a lot of fun in digging deeper and deeper and deeper into what these other wise mystics and sages had said. So it was a good job. And then being a minister, that was just a regular. The problem was that after I found the course, um, I started preaching the course
Hmm.
in the pulpit. And at first it seemed to go over well. I mean, the people were kind of got a little excited about it and were interested in it, but the hierarchy was not happy. And it eventually came to a head. And so in 1989, I had to quit. It just couldn't go any further. They said, look, why don't you try a leave of absence for a while? talking about the bishop now, not my local congregation. So I did. And then I started church in New York City, did that for 11 years. But then books came out and I started getting invitations to go on the road. And so it was more exciting after a while to be on the road than it was to be running a parish. So that's it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then COVID happened. And once COVID happened, zoom. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking right now. So
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you. So let's invite participants. You can use your digital hand, which is in the bottom of the Zoom window, or you can wave with your hand. If you have a question or a theme or something that stood out in what you just told us, anyone?
Because it's so clear.
It's still very clear.
Well, there must be parts of the course that folks don't struggle with, that are struggling with. Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a theme, and that is the meaninglessness, like the lessons we are doing now, yesterday and today and tomorrow. It touches upon the meaninglessness of the world, and it's very easy for me, at least, to be uh, kind of caught up in the meaninglessness and
Yeah.
bored. And then I would like, I'm thinking with the ego and I want something to happen. Otherwise, it feels like I'm dying. If you could speak a
Yeah.
little bit to that.
Right. Well, the ego is a great seducer. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. And the world is filled with seduction as well. Power, fame, money, physical pleasures, all those kind of things that they're there. And um, obviously it's seductive and we get caught in it very, very easily. And then we get caught in arguing about who's right and who's wrong and which is the better system of government and all that kind of stuff. And that's on the one hand, it's going to continue. On the other hand, I'm personally convinced that there's an evolution in consciousness that's been going on for a very long time, and it's speeding up because it's accelerating. It's exponential. That's why it's accelerating, and so more and more people are are questioning the nature of reality. You know what's coming next? Extraterrestrial. No, I'm pretty convinced of that well, that's a big word to you, have not made contact with us because we're not mature enough, but we're getting there.
I saw a movie last week called Arrival. It's from 2016, which is very interesting in on that note, because it's aliens coming, and they are in the movie trying to figure out how to communicate with them.
Right. I saw that a long
Yeah.
time ago.
And they don't believe in time. They don't understand time.
Ah,
And this is like the course. So for me, it was like, yeah, this is the course.
yeah,
How
yeah,
how the spirit is speaking to me from eternity. And I need to, learn a new language. Spirit is interpreting everything in the course so I can understand.
that's
There is
right.
no time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that kind of connection of throughout the whole universe. We're just a tiny spot. We're just a little dot in the whole thing here, but there's a higher mind. That's the course uses the phrase higher mind. I don't know about you. I've been watching a little bit this guy Bashard on YouTube. I don't know whether you know who he is or not. But he talks about the higher mind as well. And there's a mind that is an interconnected mind. Really, we could think of this in two partly of the Holy Spirit as well. The Holy Spirit is this connective link that's got everything all connected together, and so like it. Look, what's happening in technology in the past 20 years, in the past 10 years,
Mm. Yeah.
it's just getting so much faster. Well, okay, so God's had several billion years. But it's not about time. As you said, it's about transcending time as well. Time is a limitation. Anything that you can measure is a limitation. Time's got to pass measure with. There was a clock going on there before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's a limitation
Mm.
in minutes, and the body's a limitation and all that. But it's really for our poor human minds to try to grasp the unlimited. That's like, whoa, wait, that's. But I think we can begin to get, as like Eckhart Tolle talked about it, it's really getting into the center of the now. That's as closest to heaven as we can get in the moment, right here. And it is in the moment. And then the peripheral fall, the past and the future fall away. Um, and then we're awake here. We can talk about it, but that's a part of the mystic's experience as well. That's what the mystic experience is. The moment becomes so vivacious that well, it's just that's all there is, you know.
And that's not boring, and it's not meaningless.
Oh my God, far from it.
Far from it.
Far from it. It's this world that's meaningless because the ego's got a hold on it.
Mm.
And the ego seems to be controlling things. I won't go into it at all, but we're going through a heck of a political struggle here in the United States right now. I mean, it's just, whoa, it's hard to believe that uh, some things that are happening are happening. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
oh,
Let's see. Marie has a question. So,
okay. Hi, Marie.
Marie.
Hi again. So, yeah. So I was thinking, the ego is very seductive. So I have one question there because I noticed that it's very sublime. It's like suddenly I'm just in the ego. It's like I'm being very attentive and very here and now. And without noticing, I'm just, and then I wake up. It can take seconds, a few minutes, and then I'm in the ego again.
Yep.
How did it's so sublime?
Yeah. No,
Help.
you're right. Well, that's why the whole course, and it says so in the section 2 of chapter 1. Uh, this is a course in mind control, of mind understanding or getting control of our own minds because we lost control. If in historical times, Adam and Eve, methodologically, but hundreds of thousands of years ago, whatever it was, but time doesn't even count in that sense. We could still get back to that point. And I think the most important thing to understand about the ego, there's no such thing. It actually does not exist. That's the myth. That's the illusion that there really is such a thing. You can't, but the Course of the Holy Spirit does not recognize the ego. Because if it did, that would mean there was such a thing. How, how can you recognize something that doesn't exist? It has zero existence. There's no egos in heaven. You be sure that no ego are not in heaven, not because they're not allowed, because simply because that's a fantasy. The fantasies, there's no fantasies in heaven. Heaven is reality. That's all it is. In fact, and when I get back from Germany in the last week of May, 1st of June, I'm going to start an 8-week summer class that I'm calling Restoring Awareness of Reality. That's a line that appears twice in the course, Restoring Awareness of Reality. That could be understood as the whole purpose of the course, is to help us to restore the awareness of reality, or I could say to awaken from the dream. It's the same kind of an idea, right? But we don't recognize, under normal conditions, we don't recognize that we're dreaming. We're dreaming right now. We don't see the dream because we're so into the dream. All right. There are things that'll take us out, though. Love will take us out because it's bigger than you are. I mean, it's just really that. Talking about mystical experiences, I think one of my first really profound mystical experiences happened when I was 16 years old, and I fell in love with my high school sweetheart. Oh, nothing like that had ever happened before. I love the farm, I love the animals, I love my family, but this was different. This was a complete commitment to another one. And of course, it ended tragically. But that's the way of the world. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
And very interesting. Yeah, it's all about becoming aware.
Yeah. Yeah. More and more aware, more and more
Yeah,
aware.
that's all. What?
In particular, I think aware of, and you were kind of referring to it already, Anna, of when, where, and how the ego has its hold on you, so that you can let that go. And sometimes it's just in a littlest way, like allowing for distraction. I'm going to play with my computer for a while. I'm going to play oh, here we go. Oh, look at that. Isn't that what a pretty woman. Ooh, I could see even more of that woman. Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have another question. So, what I'm also noticing are feelings that are not obvious for me. I I don't know. I can't put a name on them, like hate or fear. They are obvious, oh yeah, now I'm angry, now I'm this. But then there are feelings that, what's this? I don't even have a name for it.
Mm.
So that's one of my experience now. And also, like,
I don't have, excuse me, I don't have a name for it either because it doesn't have a name. A name is a label. A name is a description. A name is a way of defining something. A name is a way of screwing it down and saying, this is what it is. If you see what I'm saying, all right? And one of the most profound things about mystical experiences, and it's ineffability. You just can't describe it. I mean, words are physical things. They're objects in and of themselves. A written word's a spoken word's a sound vibration. That's a physical thing that's going out there into the air. Um, and even thoughts. Yeah. At some
yeah,
point we
sorry.
transcend all that. So just enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to do that. And also there are smells that I never had before, strange smells. And then there are tastes. It's like, and and I can hear sound I never heard. It's like, I think, okay, but I'm going to take your advice. Just enjoy it. whatever is going on. Yeah.
One of the things that inevitably happens, and it happened when my death experience, and it happened so often in mystical experiences, and it colors that we don't have. And you cannot describe a color that we don't have. You just, I mean, how could you can't do it. And it's not mixing colors that makes another. We can mix colors. We can mix blue and red and you get purple, but if you see what I'm saying. Or music. And Pythagoras, God, 500 BC was talking about the music of the spheres. And people come back and they'll talk about music that transcends anything that even our best composers can come up with. So, it's amazing how little we know.
Thank you. I feel I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I'm just
No,
going to
there's
let.
nothing. It's just an experience. Enjoy
Yeah,
your experience.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. And I have a follow-up questions on the distractions. Do we enjoy them too? Or what do we do when we
I
find
think, yeah, it would depend on the distraction, but yeah, of course, you can allow yourself to do that. I mean, that's okay. I mean, the question is it taking me away from something else? Is it a more of a kind of a mundane sort of thing that's pulling me up into something sensual or something rather than to something that's opening my mind? Uh, right. If I'm distracted by my anger, then that's not something I want to be feeding. That's going in the wrong direction.
right?
Right.
And one can give it to spirit or ask spirit for help in the
Yeah, giving it to spirit's
yeah,
important.
yeah, so I can receive the lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Anyone else has a question, a theme, something that stood out? We'll scroll through and see if
Okay.
somebody's waving. All right. I have a last question then. I have a
Okay.
lot of questions.
Yeah, sure, sure. Huh?
Yeah. So if you could speak a little bit about defenselessness.
Defenselessness.
Yeah, to be defenseless.
Yeah, well, as you know, one of the workbook lessons is in defenselessness, my safety lies.
Yeah.
And of course, because there's nothing to defend. Now, having said that, uh, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't defend your body if it was attacked. By that, I mean, if your body is attacked, you're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
That's a reflex. You're gonna it's just automatic because, well, first of all, you don't get hurt. You still think you're a body. So what we're really talking about there is don't defend the silly ego. Because the ego is nothing. So if I feel like I got to defend my ego, then I'm just amplifying the ego. I'm just making it even more real. And again, that doesn't mean you wouldn't say the truth if you were accused of something falsely. But you can say what the truth is, whether someone else believes it or not, it's really going to be up to them because it's already up to them already anyhow. So, but there's nothing to defend. Uh, there's a guy, I can't, his name is Rondon, who was the first Brazilian supervisor of the Indians of Brazil. Uh, and his philosophy of life was um, die if you must, but never take another life.
Mm.
That's a very interesting. Die if you must, but never take another life. So it's like you would never do that. You would never do that as a part of your own defense, so to speak. You would never take somebody's life, right? Um, First of all, you're not a body. And Jesus knew he wasn't a body. I don't think it was a big deal for Jesus to go to the cross. I mean, it was a big deal insofar as if there was suffering there, then nobody wants to do that, but he knew he wasn't a body. And I think it probably wasn't too long, even at that point. Um, but that's all it just means. Don't defend your ego. What, what ego? What? If you want, if you got to lie, then you got to defend the lie. But there's, then you just dig in a deeper hole.
Yeah. And I can see the difference. I mean, it's a reaction. If I get physically attacked, I would, you know.
Oh yeah, just normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And if
mean,
somebody like my youngest grandchild nearly got run over by a car yesterday, and I want to
oh,
defend. Yeah, exactly. And you know, and then a lot of thoughts are coming up, and a lot of, you know, looking at it with the spirit, but it makes sense to don't defend the ego. That's
yeah,
what it's about.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's it.
yeah.
Simple.
Practice forgiveness and don't defend the ego.
In fact, it's rather refreshing when you don't.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Why dig a hole? Why bury yourself further down?
And I have noticed that the more my training I receive, the more it just stops. I don't have to defend the ego. I can just kind of take a step back and
Yeah, of course you do. You just because otherwise you're going to start an argument or you're going to create unpleasantness between you and somebody else.
mm,
You know, so why do that?
exactly.
Yeah, the sooner you let it go, the better. In
Hmm.
fact, just don't even create a problem to start with.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
It was lovely to have you here.
Thank you. So if anybody here would like to get our magazine, why don't you, Anna, share with them your list and say if they contact me if they would like a sample copy or a year's worth. And it's fine, it's free. And then at the end of the year, if they want to renew or they don't renew, either way, whatever, it's up to them. Okay. No.
Absolutely. So I give them your email address. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then say, here, if you want to do it, contact this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Simple.
Thank you so much.
You're not coming to Germany by chance.
No, I'm not. I actually wanted to go, but but not alone. I asked people to come with me, and not this year, but I would love to come to a conference anywhere, actually. Yeah.
I had a wonderful time in Sweden in 1967.
67. It's time to come again then, don't you think?
Yeah, well, somebody's got to invite me.
Maybe me and Hakim can arrange something. We talked about that actually, like we should do something.
I took a train from Stockholm to Narvik, Norway.
Yeah, beautiful.
24 hour, 10 years, day
Yeah.
and night.
Yeah.
Flight.
What time of year was it? Was it like the day during the night or
Oh,
what
it was
was the
day
time?
and night. It was a day and a night.
Yeah.
It,
So what time of year was it? Was it daylight all
it was summer. It was in
summer?
August.
Yeah. Yeah.
And watching out the window, and I read Siddhartha on the way there, I remember.
Ah, wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice also to see it during the winter, the north, because we
Oh,
have
I bet.
northern
Bet.
lights and you can actually hear them. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will talk to Hakim and we'll see what we can arrange.
Okay. Are you near? And you're not near Hockham. Am I saying his name right?
Hakim, yeah,
Huh?
Hakim. So I'm 6 hours away driving. Yeah, so I'm kind of far away, but it's
Hmm.
Sweden. It's a long country.
Yeah, I'd like to meet Marcus.
Yeah, Magnus is here.
Oh, is he really?
Yes, he's here, or he was here. No, he's not. He has been here. I saw him earlier.
He was here briefly. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
very good.
I'm closer to Magnus than to Hakim. Mm.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. And our next speaker is on Friday at 4 p.m. and it's Maria Philippe. She has written a book about happiness and A Course in Miracles. So she will talk about happiness on Friday.
Yeah, she's a good one. Enjoy her.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Nice being with you. Thanks for doing this, Anna.
Thank you.
Nice to see a committed student. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.